Thieves like you make me sick. Officer Derek Kane grabs Madison Gray at Westfield Mall's jewelry counter. She's 17, clutching a $20 bill. Weekend shoppers stop to watch. I didn't steal this. Save your lies. He rips the bill from her hand, kicks her backpack across the floor. Worn notebooks scatter. No parents, no ID. You're coming with me. My mom works at Fort Bragg. I can call her Fort Bragg. Kane turns to the crowd with a cruel smile. This kid wants me to believe her mama's military. What's next? She gonna fly in wearing combat boots? The crowd murmurs. Some laugh. Madison's cheeks burn. Her hand finds her phone in her pocket. One text sent without looking. Then she goes still. That message just sealed his fate. The crowd parts as Kane drags Madison through the mall toward the exit. Her sneakers squeak against polished floors. Behind them, someone's phone is still recording. This isn't the first time Derek Kane has made assumptions about a kid. It's habit now, built from 8 years behind a badge in a town where most families look the same, act the same, drive the same cars. Madison doesn't fit the pattern, and that's enough. He studies her as they walk. The backpack with its frayed straps. Jeans with a patch on one knee. Not the fashionable kind, but the kind that says someone sewed it there to extend the life of the pants. No smartphone case, just a bare screen with a crack in the corner. Her hair needs a trim. Her jacket is 2 sizes too big, probably a hand-me-down. Kane's mental file builds itself. Single-parent household. Mom works double shifts somewhere, probably retail or food service. Kid gets unsupervised time, makes bad choices. Classic pattern. He's seen it 100 times. What he doesn't see is the discipline in how she walks, even now. The way she keeps her breathing controlled despite being scared. The muscle memory of someone who's been taught to stay calm under pressure. Officer Yates, Kane calls into his radio. I'm bringing in a juvenile, suspected theft. Meet me at the cruiser. Madison's voice is quiet but steady. I told you the truth. My mom is Lieutenant Colonel Catherine Gray. She's at Fort Bragg. If you just let me call her... Lieutenant Colonel? Kane shakes his head. Kid, I don't know what movies you've been watching, but this isn't helping your case. He opens the back door of his patrol car. Get in. She climbs in without fighting. The door slams shut. Through the window, Kane sees her lips moving. She's counting something. 1, 2, 3, 4, over and over. He mistakes it for panic. It's not. 20 miles away at Fort Bragg's Special Operations Command building, a Pentagon priority alert appears on 3 different screens simultaneously. The message is brief. Dependent in distress. Civilian PD custody. Immediate response required. A colonel in desert tan combat uniform reads it twice. Then she's moving. Kane has 15 minutes before his world ends. The Greystone Police Department smells like burnt coffee and industrial cleaner. Madison sits on a plastic chair in the lobby, her confiscated phone somewhere behind the front desk, her ripped birthday card pieces tucked carefully in her jacket pocket. Officer Timothy Yates shifts his weight behind the counter, eyes flicking between his computer screen and the 17-year-old girl who hasn't moved in 20 minutes. He's 26, 3 years on the force, and something about this whole situation makes his stomach tight. Kane, meanwhile, has settled into his desk chair with a sandwich from the deli next door. His feet rest on an open drawer. He scrolls through his phone, occasionally glancing at Madison like she's a piece of furniture he'll deal with eventually. Madison's bladder is getting uncomfortable. She counts to 30, then stands and approaches the desk. Excuse me, can I use the bathroom? Kane doesn't look up. In a minute. She waits. 5 minutes pass, then 10. She tries again, her voice smaller this time. Please, I really need to... Sit down, Kane says around a mouthful of turkey club. You're not going anywhere until your parent or guardian shows up. If they show up. But I told you, my mom is at Fort Bragg being a super soldier. Yeah, I heard you the first 12 times. He finally looks at her, his expression somewhere between bored and annoyed. Here's a life lesson, kid. The faster you tell the truth, the faster this goes. Where'd you really get that $20? I saved it from my allowance. 10 weeks, $2 a week. Kane snorts. Allowance. From your special forces mom who's too busy to pick you up. Yates clears his throat. Derek, maybe we should just... Should just what, Tim? Let her walk. Kane leans back in his chair. She had cash she couldn't explain, no adult supervision, and she lied to my face. We follow protocol. This isn't protocol, Yates mutters, but not loud enough to push it. Madison returns to her chair. Her hands rest in her lap, fingers laced together to stop them from shaking. She closes her eyes and counts like her mother taught her. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 6, repeat. Mom taught her this technique during a thunderstorm 3 years ago when Madison couldn't sleep. Fear is just a feeling, her mother had said, sitting on the edge of the bed in her PT gear after a pre-dawn run. You control your breath, you control the feeling. Count with me. Madison counts now. 1 breath, 2, 3. Outside, a black Ford F-250 pulls into the parking lot. The diesel engine cuts. A woman steps out wearing desert tan fatigues, boots hitting asphalt with purpose. Her name tape reads Gray. The station door opens and Kane's smirk dies instantly. Kane pulls an incident report form from his desk drawer with deliberate slowness. He uncaps a pen, clicks it twice, then looks at Madison with the expression of a man who has all the time in the world. So, Madison, tell me about this Special Forces mom. What's her rank? Her unit? Or should we skip to the part where you admit you made it all up? Madison's voice doesn't waver. Lieutenant Colonel Catherine Gray, 3rd Special Forces Group, Fort Bragg. Kane writes nothing. He just stares at her, then glances at Yates with a grin. Yates looks away. Lieutenant Colonel, Green Beret. Kane leans forward. You know what happens to kids who lie to police? It goes on a record, a permanent record. When you apply to colleges, they see that. They throw your application in the trash. Madison's fingers dig into her thighs. She's 17. He's an adult with a badge. She doesn't know enough to call him a liar. Let's start with basics. Home address. She recites it. Your mother's full name. Catherine Ann Gray. And your father? Madison's voice gets quieter. He passed away when I was 5. Kandahar? Something flickers across Yates's face. Kane doesn't miss a beat. Ah. He nods slowly, false sympathy dripping from his voice. So mom's really busy, huh? Gone all the time. That why you make up stories, sweetheart? Need attention? Madison's jaw clenches. She stares at a spot on the wall behind his head and says nothing. Tim, Kane says loudly, write this down. Attention-seeking behavior likely due to parental absence and unresolved grief. Yates's hands hover over his keyboard. Derek, she's just a kid. She's a kid who lied to a police officer and wasted city resources. Kane taps his pen against the form. It's sad, really. Mom's probably working 2 jobs, kid's raising herself, makes up fantasies to feel special. Madison's face burns. Not from embarrassment, but from the effort of not crying. She will not give him that. She counts breaths behind clenched teeth. 4 in, hold, 6 out. The station AC unit rattles and dies. The air goes still and stuffy. Sweat beads at Madison's hairline. Behind Kane's desk, a faded poster shows an eagle in 3 words. Integrity, service, respect. Kane checks his watch. 4:45. He's been holding her for nearly an hour. No calls, no one showing up. His confidence grows with every passing minute. Last chance, Madison. Where'd you really get that $20? I told you. I saved. Your allowance. From your imaginary military mom. He closes the folder with a snap. If no one shows up in 15 minutes, I'm calling Child Protective Services. Maybe they can find you a home where someone actually pays attention. Madison's breath catches. CPS. Foster care. Being taken away. Her hands shake. She presses them together. Keeps counting. Keeps breathing. The front door opens. Yates glances up. His face drains of color. Derek. Combat boots echo on linoleum, and Kane's world stops. 30 minutes earlier, Madison's thumb had hovered over her phone screen in the back of Kane's patrol car. Not her mom's cell number, not the main baseline. The emergency contact her mother made her memorize 2 years ago. The one she said to use only if something was truly wrong. The text was simple. Detained by police. Westfield Mall. Officer hostile. Need you. She hit send and watched the message disappear into whatever system her mother had set up for emergencies like this. What Madison doesn't know is that her text didn't just go to a phone. It triggered an alert in the Joint Operations Command Priority Channel, a system designed for dependents of high-clearance military personnel in crisis situations. The kind of crisis that means kidnapping, assault, or imminent danger. At Fort Bragg, 15 miles from the mall, a Pentagon duty officer sees the alert flash red across his screen. He reads it once, twice, then immediately forwards it to Colonel Catherine Gray's tactical operations coordinator. Gray is in a windowless briefing room with 3 NATO advisors discussing classified equipment transfers and training protocols. Her phone, set to silent for everything except priority alerts, vibrates once against the table. She glances down, reads the message. Her face goes absolutely still. The NATO colonel mid-sentence notices, "Is everything?" "Excuse me." Gray stands, her voice level but final. "Family emergency, we'll reschedule." She's out the door before anyone can respond, already dialing her aide. "I need a vehicle and my Class A's now, 5 minutes." Her aide knows better than to ask questions. "Yes, ma'am." Gray's hands don't shake as she strips out of her training fatigues and pulls on her dress uniform, the one with all the ribbons and tabs and proof of exactly who she is. Her movements are efficient, automatic, but her mind is a razor. Someone put their hands on her daughter. Someone detained her, scared her enough that she used the emergency protocol. Someone looked at Madison and decided she was lying, decided she was worth humiliating, decided she didn't matter. Gray's jaw sets as she slides behind the wheel of the F-250. She doesn't speed because military discipline runs deeper than emotion, but her knuckles are white against the steering wheel. They think I'm a lie, she thinks. They'll learn I'm a guarantee. Back at the station, Madison sits in that plastic chair, Kane's threats about CPS still ringing in her ears. She makes a decision in the quiet of her own head. She will not cry. She will not beg. She will not give him the satisfaction of breaking her. Mom taught her control. Control your breath, control your fear, control what you can control. Madison breathes. 4 counts in, hold, 6 counts out. Her hands rest steady in her lap now. She meets Kane's eyes when he looks at her, doesn't flinch when he smirks. Kane mistakes her silence for defeat. It's not. It's patience. The front door opens. Boot heels strike linoleum in a rhythm that sounds like a countdown. Yates looks up and freezes. His face goes from confusion to recognition to something close to horror. Colonel Gray walks in, and the air itself changes pressure. Colonel Catherine Gray steps through the door in full battle dress uniform, desert tan fatigues, boots polished to a mirror shine, rank insignia sharp on her chest. The Ranger tab, the airborne wings, the bronze star catching fluorescent light. The station goes silent. Even the phones seem to stop ringing. Gray's eyes find Madison first. A quick visual assessment, posture, face, hands, looking for injury, for signs of trauma. Madison sits up straighter, meets her mother's gaze, gives the smallest nod. "I'm okay." Only then does Gray turn to Kane. Her voice is quiet, controlled, colder than any shout could ever be. "Officer, explain why my daughter was detained." Kane's smirk wavers but holds. He stands, trying to reclaim his authority through height. "Ma'am, your daughter was found with unexplained cash at a mall jewelry counter. We brought her here for her safety while we investigated possible theft." "Theft?" Gray's tone doesn't change. "What evidence of theft did you observe? She had $20 and couldn't adequately explain? She's 17. How much explanation does a 17-year-old need to give an adult before you believe her?" Gray steps closer. Not aggressive, just deliberate. "What store reported merchandise missing?" Kane hesitates. "No store specifically reported, so no theft occurred. The situation was suspicious." "Suspicious how? Be specific." Kane's mouth opens and closes. He pivots. "She was also trespassing earlier. Lincoln Park Trail. There are private property signs posted. The trail has been public access for 6 years. City Ordinance 443B. Would you like me to pull up the municipal code right now, or would you prefer to keep lying?" The word lying lands like a slap. Yates's eyes go wide. Kane's face reddens. "Ma'am, with all respect, rank doesn't matter here. This is civilian jurisdiction." "You're absolutely right," Gray says. "Rank doesn't matter. Accuracy does." She reaches into her pocket and places her military ID on the counter. "You told my daughter she was lying about who I am. Was she?" Yates picks up the CAC card with shaking hands. He reads the rank, reads it again. "Derek," he whispers. "She's a lieutenant colonel." Kane glances at the card, then back at Gray, his confidence cracking at the edges. "Look, there may have been a misunderstanding." "There was no misunderstanding. You made an assumption." Gray's smile is razor thin. "I'd like to see the incident report. Now!" Kane's hands tremble as he reaches for the folder. Kane fumbles with the folder on his desk. His hands aren't quite steady as he pulls out the form and slides it across to Gray. She picks it up, reads it in silence. Her jaw tightens as her eyes scan the words. Attention-seeking behavior, fabrication suspected, parental absence, unresolved grief. Gray sets the paper down with deliberate care. Officer Kane, before you wrote this assessment of my daughter's psychological state, did you confirm my identity? The situation seemed to indicate yes or no. Kane's throat works. No. Did you deny my daughter access to a bathroom while she was in your custody? Madison nods slightly. Gray's eyes flash something dangerous. Kane shifts his weight. She didn't ask. I asked twice, Madison says quietly. Her voice is steady now, stronger with her mother standing 3 feet away. Yates speaks up from behind his desk, his voice tight. Derek, she did ask. I heard her. Kane shoots him a look that could melt steel. Tim, answer the question, Gray says. Did you deny my 17-year-old daughter access to a bathroom? I told her to wait. For how long? Kane doesn't answer. Gray continues. You detained a minor without parental notification. You denied her basic needs. You accused her of a crime you couldn't substantiate. You then wrote a psychological evaluation despite having no credentials or evidence. She pauses. Is your body camera footage available? The color drains from Kane's face. There was a technical malfunction. A malfunction. Gray's tone could freeze water. How convenient. She pulls out her phone and holds it up. Mine didn't malfunction. Kane stares at the phone. You can't. North Carolina is a one-party consent state, officer. I can record any conversation I'm part of. I've been recording since I walked through that door. She tilts her head slightly. Would you like to change any of your previous statements? Yates has gone pale. He's staring at his keyboard like it might offer him an escape route. Kane tries to salvage something. Ma'am, look, I think this is being blown way out of proportion. It was a simple misunderstanding. A misunderstanding is when you mispronounce someone's name. Gray says, this is harassment of a minor. This is abuse of authority. This is falsification of a report. Each sentence lands like a hammer. And this is just the beginning. Should officers face federal review for abusing authority? Comment justice if you think so. Gray's phone buzzes in her hand. She glances at the screen. Her expression doesn't change, but something shifts in her posture. She answers and taps the speaker button. Colonel Gray, a voice says, crisp and professional. This is Major Williams from General Markham's office. We received your dependent distress alert. Do you need MP backup? The room goes dead silent. Kane realizes federal jurisdiction just entered his station. Gray keeps her eyes on Kane as she responds to the phone. Not yet, Major, but I need this call timestamp documented. I may require federal oversight of this department. Logged and standing by, Colonel. We have your location. MP unit is 15 minutes out if needed. Understood. I'll update within the hour. She ends the call. The silence that follows is suffocating. Kane's face has gone from red to ash gray. Federal oversight? Look, Colonel, I apologize if there was any miscommunication here. Let's just get your daughter home and we can... We're not done. Gray cuts him off. I want your supervisor. Now. Yates stands up slowly from his desk. I'll get Sergeant Ortiz. Sit down, Tim. Kane snaps. No. Yates's voice shakes but holds firm. I told you an hour ago to just call her mom. I told you this was wrong. Kane's eyes narrow. You need to shut your mouth. Officer Yates, Gray says, her tone still level. What's your full name? Timothy Yates, ma'am. Did you attempt to intervene when Officer Kane detained my daughter? Yates swallows hard. I suggested we contact you immediately. He refused. But you didn't stop him. Yates looks down at his hands. No, ma'am, I didn't. That's complicity, Officer Yates. Remember that. The door to the back offices swings open. Sergeant Linda Ortiz walks out, mid-40s, sharp-eyed, her uniform crisp. She takes one look at the scene, Gray in full BDUs, Kane sweating, Yates pale, a 17-year-old girl in a plastic chair, and her expression hardens. Someone want to tell me what's happening in my station? Gray hands her the incident report. Your officer detained my daughter on false pretenses, denied her basic dignity, and falsified this report. I'm filing a formal complaint. Ortiz scans the document. Her jaw tightens with each line. When she finishes, she looks at Kane with something close to disgust. My office. Right now. Sarge, it was just a misunderstanding. Now, Kane. Gray turns to Madison. Get your things. We're leaving. She looks back at Ortiz. Expect a call from JAG by morning. Judge Advocate General, she clarifies, though Ortiz clearly knows what it means. Madison stands, collects her backpack from behind the desk. Kane's confiscated phone is returned without a word. As they walk toward the door, Gray pauses and glances back. Sergeant Ortiz, one more thing. You might want to check how many other complaints Officer Kane has had dismissed internally. I have a feeling this isn't his first time. 3 days later, Greystone PD receives a certified DOD letter. Equipment suspension pending investigation. Gray's home office is quiet except for the hum of her laptop. It's late evening, nearly 10 o'clock. Madison is asleep upstairs, finally calm after the hot shower and the grilled cheese sandwich her mother insisted on before allowing any conversation about what happened. Now alone, Gray allows herself to work. Her screen displays a database most police chiefs have never seen, the Department of Defense Law Enforcement Support Program. The page header reads, DOD Liaison Officer, Police Equipment Transfer Oversight. Below that, in smaller text, Authorized Personnel Only, TS SCI Clearance Required. Gray's signature appears on dozens of documents scrolling past, equipment authorizations, training compliance audits, federal grant approvals. For the past 4 years, she's been the person who decides which police departments receive surplus military gear and whether they're qualified to use it responsibly. Greystone PD received $460,000 in equipment last year alone: night vision goggles, 2 tactical vehicles, level IV body armor for the entire department, advanced communication systems, breaching tools. All of it contingent on maintaining an 80% training completion rate and adhering to constitutional policing practices. Gray pulls up their current compliance file. The numbers make her jaw tighten. Training completion rate 62%, 18 points below the required threshold. Excessive force complaints filed in the last 24 months, 18. Body camera malfunction rate, 34%. The national average is 6. She clicks deeper, finds the names behind the complaints. Derek Kane appears on 3 separate reports. All 3 were investigated internally. All 3 were dismissed with no disciplinary action. The pattern isn't hidden. It's just ignored. Gray opens a new window and begins typing. Her fingers fly across the keyboard, building a report that will land on desks in Washington by dawn. She includes case numbers, dates, federal grant agreement violations, and a detailed timeline of what happened to Madison. When she finishes, she saves the file and picks up her phone. First call. Captain Brooks, JAG Corps. Brooks answers on the second ring. Colonel Gray, Colonel. Burning the midnight oil? Brooks, I need a full audit of Greystone Police Department's federal contracts and equipment grants. Priority Alpha. I want every training log, every use of force report, every dollar they've received in the last 5 years. There's a pause. Kate, if you're personally involved in this, it could complicate. They put their hands on my daughter. They humiliated her in public. They lied on official reports. I want the audit, and I want it initiated by tomorrow morning. Brooks exhales. Understood. I'll have it on the secretary's desk by 0800. Thank you. Second call. Gray scrolls to a contact labeled simply Diane Personal. Senator Diane Fisher answers immediately. Kate, it's late. Is everything okay? No. Madison was detained by local police today, falsely. I need your committee to investigate police militarization abuse in Greystone. I'm sending you a full file. Fisher's voice goes cold. They touched Madison? They grabbed her in a mall, accused her of theft with no evidence, held her for over an hour, and mocked her when she told them to call me. I want hearings, Diane. I want this department under a microscope. Send me everything. If they abused federal resources and hurt that little girl, I'll personally drag their chief in front of armed services. They won't have a badge left when I'm done. Third call. Gray finds Matt Chen in her contacts, DOJ Civil Rights Division. They worked together on a case in 2023 involving a sheriff's department in Georgia. Kate Gray, Matt says warmly. Been a while. What's going on? I've got a pattern and practice case gift-wrapped for you. Excessive force complaints ignored, body cam tampering, federal grant violations, civil rights abuse of a minor. Want it? Always, email me the complaint. We'll open an investigation Monday morning. Gray ends the call and sets the phone down. 3 separate investigations now in motion. DOD equipment audit, Senate committee inquiry, Department of Justice civil rights probe. She closes her laptop and sits back in the darkness. 20 miles away, Derek Kane sits on his couch with his third beer of the night. His phone lights up with messages in the department group chat. He's been telling the story for the last hour, making it funnier with each retelling. Military mom actually showed up in camo lol. Bet she drives a Prius with an army sticker. Did you salute her, bro? Kane grins and types back, she can wear whatever costume she wants, doesn't change jurisdiction. His phone buzzes. Text from Sergeant Ortiz. Need to see you tomorrow. Don't come in until I call. He frowns at the message, but shrugs it off. Probably just procedural. Woman probably filed a complaint. Ortiz will smooth it over like always. 3 days later, a certified letter is delivered to Greystone Police Department at 9 in the morning. Chief Harold Briggs signs for it personally, opens it in his office, and reads the letterhead, Department of Defense, Office of the Inspector General. He reads the first sentence 3 times. Equipment transfer authorization suspended pending investigation into training compliance failures and credible civil rights violations. His hand shakes as he picks up his phone. $500,000 in federal gear frozen with one letter. Chief Harold Briggs stands behind his desk, holding the DOD letter like it might explode. His office is crowded. Sergeant Ortiz sits in one chair. City Attorney Ellen Morse in another. Derek Kane stands near the door, his arms crossed defensively, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Briggs reads aloud, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. Failure to maintain required training standards. Credible complaint of constitutional rights violation by officer under DOD oversight. Equipment transfer authorization suspended, effective immediately pending full departmental audit. He sets the letter down and looks at each person in turn. When his eyes land on Kane, they're cold enough to freeze blood. Someone explained to me how we went from a routine mall stop to losing $500,000 in federal equipment. Morse flips through her notes. The complainant is Lieutenant Colonel Catherine Gray, U.S. Army Special Operations Command. She's also the DOD liaison officer who oversees police equipment transfers for this entire region. She looks up. Which means she's the person who approved our gear in the first place. Jesus Christ, Briggs mutters. It gets worse, Morse continues. Senator Fisher's office called this morning. The Armed Services Committee is opening an inquiry into police militarization abuse. They specifically named Greystone as a case study. Briggs closes his eyes. What else? Department of Justice Civil Rights Division opened a pattern and practice investigation yesterday. They're looking at every excessive force complaint we've had in the last 5 years. The room goes silent. Kane shifts his weight, his face pale. Briggs finally speaks. Officer Kane, tell me exactly what happened. No spin, just facts. Kane clears his throat. Chief, I observed a juvenile with unexplained cash at a mall jewelry counter. I detained her for questioning. She claimed her mother was military, which seemed unlikely given the circumstances. I brought her to the station to verify. Did you confirm her story before detaining her? Briggs asks. The situation required immediate. Yes or no, Derek? No, sir. Did you turn off your body camera? Kane hesitates. There was a technical malfunction. I asked if you turned it off. Another pause. Yes, sir. Briggs's fist comes down on the desk hard enough to make everyone jump. You detained a 17-year-old girl, the daughter of a Pentagon liaison officer, without cause. You denied her access to a parent. You turned off your camera to hide it. And then you wrote a psychological evaluation despite having 0 qualifications. His voice rises with each sentence. Do you have any idea what you've done to this department? Kane's jaw works. Chief, I was doing my job. Your job is to serve and protect, not to humiliate children because they don't fit your assumptions. Briggs turns to Morse. What are we looking at legally? 3 separate federal investigations. Potential loss of all DOD grants, which fund about 40% of our equipment budget. Civil lawsuit from Colonel Gray is likely, and depending on what DOJ finds, we could be placed under a consent decree. Consent decree, Briggs repeats slowly. Federal oversight, for years. Potentially 5 to 10 years, yes. Ortiz speaks up. Chief, there's more. I pulled Kane's file. 3 prior complaints, all dismissed internally without proper investigation. Briggs looks like he might be sick. Get out of my office, Kane. You're on administrative leave as of now. Full pay, but you don't set foot in this building until IA completes their investigation. Chief, out. By day 2, the story breaks. Local news runs it first. Military mother exposes police department, federal investigation launched. The segment shows stock footage of Fort Bragg, the Greystone PD building, and a carefully worded summary that avoids naming Madison but makes the power dynamic crystal clear. By day 3, it's gone regional. Lieutenant Colonel triggers DOD audit after daughter detained. Someone leaked Kane's incident report. The redacted version appears on social media by day 4, and the internet does what the internet does. Twitter explodes. #Greystone PD trends nationally. #BelieveKids becomes a rallying cry. Threads dissecting every detail of the case accumulate thousands of retweets. Reddit's Justice Served thread hits 80,000 upvotes within 24 hours. The top comment: imagine mocking a kid for saying her mom's special forces and then watching a lieutenant colonel walk through the door in full uniform. Chef's kiss. TikTok picks it up next. Madison's story, told without showing her face, gets 4 million views in 3 days. The audio clip of "Your mama's in the military, she gonna fly in wearing combat boots" becomes a meme for instant karma moments. Gray declines every interview request. Her public affairs officer releases a single statement. Colonel Gray has full confidence in the ongoing federal investigations and will not be commenting further at this time. But the silence only feeds the story. Derek Kane's life becomes a fishbowl. Administrative leave means he's home all day, watching his name get torn apart online. His union representative tells him the harsh truth over coffee at a Denny's far from Greystone. "Derek, I'll defend you because that's my job. But if they prove you intentionally turned off your body cam, there's nothing I can do. That's tampering with evidence." Kane stares into his coffee. It was just supposed to be a simple stop. Well, it's not simple anymore. His phone buzzes constantly with messages from other officers. Most are supportive publicly, but he notices who's stopped responding in the group chat, who's putting distance between themselves and the fallout. His wife asks him one night after the kids are in bed, "Why didn't you just let her call her mother?" He doesn't have an answer. The Internal Affairs interview. The IA interview happens in a neutral room at City Hall, not the police station. Madison sits between her mother and a victim's advocate provided by the State Attorney General's office. The investigator, a woman named Sarah Torres, has kind eyes but asks direct questions. "Madison, did Officer Kane threaten you?" Madison thinks carefully. "He didn't hit me or anything, but he said I'd have a record, that colleges would see it. I'm 17. I didn't know if that was true or not." The advocate leans forward. "That's coercion of a minor. Textbook intimidation." Torres makes a note. "Did he deny you access to a bathroom?" "Yes, I asked twice. He said in a minute, but then never let me go." "How long were you there?" "Over an hour, I think." Gray's hand rests on Madison's shoulder, steady and grounding. Torres's expression doesn't change, but her pen moves faster. "Thank you, Madison. You're very brave." Later that day, Torres interviews Timothy Yates separately. He sits alone, no union rep, no partner, just him and the truth he's been avoiding. "Officer Yates, did Officer Kane turn off his body camera deliberately?" Yates stares at his hands for a long moment. Then, "Yes." "Can you be specific?" "He said, 'No one needs to see this.' Then he switched it off before we entered the mall. Did you object?" "I said we should just call her mom and let her go. He told me to mind my own business." "But you didn't stop him." Yates looks up, his face drawn. "No, ma'am, I didn't, and I should have." Torres closes her notebook. "That's all for now, Officer Yates." 2 weeks later, the IA report lands on Chief Briggs's desk. 6 sustained findings: false detention without probable cause, denial of access to guardian, coercion of a minor, falsification of official report, evidence tampering via body cam deactivation, conduct unbecoming an officer. The recommendation is termination. The city's settlement offer. Ellen Morse approaches Gray privately, requesting a meeting at a coffee shop equidistant from the base in City Hall. They sit in a corner booth, 2 cups of coffee growing cold between them. "Colonel Gray, I'll be direct. The city is prepared to offer a settlement, $150,000 mutual non-disclosure agreement, and Officer Kane's resignation with pension intact." Gray's expression doesn't change. "No." Morse blinks. "I'm sorry. No. I don't want your money." "Colonel, I understand you're angry, but this is a generous—" "I don't want generous, I want accountability." Gray leans forward. Kane doesn't resign. He gets fired. Terminated for cause, no pension, no reference, no chance of being rehired in law enforcement anywhere. I'm not finished. I want the entire department audited, training reformed to meet federal standards, body camera policy rewritten to eliminate malfunctions, and I want a public apology to my daughter, delivered by Chief Briggs personally. Morse sets down her pen. That's not how these settlements typically work. I'm not typical. Gray's smile is thin and sharp. And if you don't agree, I'll see you in federal court, with cameras, with press, with every advocacy group that's already contacted me offering support. We'll litigate this publicly for years, and every single dirty detail of your department's failures will be entered into public record. Morse studies her for a long moment. Let me take this to the city council. You do that. 2 weeks later, Derek Kane receives a certified letter at his home. His hands shake as he tears it open. Notice of termination for cause, effective immediately. Pension forfeiture, no rehire eligibility. He reads it 3 times. The final line burns into his vision. Sustained findings of evidence tampering, false detention, and conduct unbecoming preclude any future employment in law enforcement capacity. His wife watches from the kitchen doorway. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't have to. The council votes 6-0. Kane is done. The city council chambers are packed. Reporters line the back wall. Activists wearing Believe Kids shirts fill the front rows. Derek Kane sits beside his union attorney, Roger Whitman, looking 10 years older in an ill-fitting suit. Chief Briggs reads from the podium. Officer Derek Kane has served 8 years. Internal Affairs sustained the following findings: false detention of a minor without probable cause, denial of access to guardian, coercion of a minor, falsification of an official report, evidence tampering via body camera deactivation, and conduct unbecoming an officer. The department recommends termination for cause with pension forfeiture. Whitman stands. Council members, while Officer Kane exercised poor judgment, termination is excessive. This is his first serious disciplinary action in 8 years. We request suspension, retraining, and probation. Council member Patricia Hughes leans forward. First offense? The IA report shows 3 prior complaints dismissed internally without independent oversight. That's protecting your own, not justice. The gallery murmurs agreement. Council member Robert Mills adds, Officer Kane said no one needs to see this before turning off his camera. That's premeditation. That's consciousness of guilt. Whitman tries again. My client has a family, a mortgage, 2 children. Taking his pension destroys their livelihood. Hughes's voice sharpens. Madison Gray is 17. She'll remember being grabbed, humiliated, and called a liar by authority forever. Where's the consideration for her? Scattered applause breaks out. Kane is given a chance to speak. He stands, voice cracking. I made a mistake. I'm sorry for what happened to Madison. I want to make this right. But his eyes say something else. I'm sorry I got caught. Everyone sees it. The council votes 6-0. Termination upheld. Pension forfeited. Timothy Yates faces his hearing 3 days later. Smaller crowd, less media. His punishment, 6-month suspension without pay, mandatory training, 2 years probation. One more complaint and he's permanently terminated. After, he finds Gray outside. Ma'am, I should have stopped him. I knew it was wrong. I'm truly sorry. Gray studies him. Yes, Officer Yates, it is on you. Don't let it happen again. I won't, ma'am. He walks away alone. 1 month later, Derek Kane sits in a cramped apartment 30 miles from Greystone scrolling job sites. He had to sell his house. Security firms rejected. They Google his name. Private investigation, rejected. Retail management, rejected. His wife filed for separation. I can't watch you destroy yourself and take us with you. His kids live with her now. Supervised visits every other weekend. They look at him like a stranger. He opens Facebook. Someone tagged him. The comments are brutal. Hope this guy never works again. That 17-year-old had more integrity. Power-tripping coward got what he deserved. He closes the laptop, sits in silence. His neighbor's TV bleeds through thin walls. He thinks about Madison, about laughing when she said her mother was Special Forces, the certainty he felt that she was lying. He was so sure. I thought I was teaching her respect, but I didn't respect her enough to check if she was telling the truth. He doesn't find redemption, doesn't apologize properly, doesn't volunteer or make amends. He just sits there, alone, unemployed, broke, Forgotten. His phone buzzes. Another rejection email. He doesn't open it. Some people learn from their mistakes. Some people just lose everything and never understand why. Derek Kane lost everything, and somewhere deep down in a place he won't let himself examine, he still thinks it wasn't his fault. One man falls, but the system that protected him faces judgment. 6 months after Madison's detention, the Department of Defense releases its findings on Greystone Police Department. The report is damning. Equipment revoked, $300,000 in night vision devices and tactical vehicles pulled immediately. The department has 30 days to return everything or face federal prosecution. New nationwide stipulations. Any department with training compliance below 80% loses access to DoD equipment. No exceptions. Colonel Gray testifies before the Senate Armed Services Committee in full dress uniform. Local police officers are not soldiers, she says calmly. They serve different functions under different legal frameworks. If they want military tools, they must demonstrate military-level discipline and accountability. Anything less betrays public trust. Senator Fisher introduces an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act within 2 weeks. It becomes known as the Gray Clause. The amendment mandates annual independent audits of every police department receiving DoD equipment. It requires public reporting of training compliance, use of force incidents, and complaint resolution. Departments failing audits for 2 consecutive years are permanently banned. It passes with bipartisan support, 68 to 32 in the Senate. The Department of Justice completes its investigation 8 months later. Their findings confirm systemic failures in training, accountability, and constitutional policing. Greystone PD is placed under federal consent decree for 5 years. Independent monitor assigned with authority to review every use of force incident. Body camera use mandatory. Footage auto-uploaded to secure cloud storage. No manual shutoffs. No malfunctions. Bias training every 6 months by outside experts. Community Oversight Board established with veto power over use of force policies. Chief Briggs retires 2 weeks after the decree is signed. The city hires Angela Mercer from Oregon, known for reform work. Her first act, require every officer to recertify in constitutional policing. 12 officers resign rather than comply. The department is better for it. Madison's case becomes legal precedent within a year, cited in 12 other lawsuits for false assumption-based detentions. A nonprofit forms, the Believe the Kid Coalition. They provide free legal advice to minors during police encounters and distribute Know Your Rights materials in schools. Gray's story appears in Military Times, the colonel who held the line, "At home." It goes viral across bases worldwide. Army Recruiting produces a new video featuring service members with their children. The tagline, "When you serve, we serve too, and we protect our own." Applications from military spouses for law enforcement oversight positions increase 40%. The story becomes larger than one girl, one officer, one department. It becomes a symbol of what accountability looks like when pursued with precision and determination. Change is slow. Systems resist. But Madison Gray's name is now attached to that change, a reminder that even a 17-year-old's truth can move mountains when someone with power believes her. For Madison and her mother, life must return to normal, forever changed. 1 year later. Saturday morning sunlight filters through the kitchen windows of the Gray house. Madison sits at the table eating cereal, now 13 years old, scrolling through her laptop with the casual confidence of someone who survived something difficult and came out stronger. Gray sips coffee at the counter, reviewing routine military reports. Life has returned to its normal rhythm. Deployments, briefings, training schedules. The urgent crisis has faded into memory, leaving only the lessons behind. "Mom," Madison says without looking up, "there's a National Youth Leadership Conference next month. Applications are due in 2 weeks. You applying? Yeah, the essay question is, describe a moment that taught you resilience." Gray smiles into her coffee. "Sounds like you've got material." Madison grins back. "Maybe a little. The weight of that day at the mall still exists, but it's lighter now. It doesn't crush her. It's just part of her story. The chapter where she learned that truth is worth defending even when no one believes you. She learned something else, too, that her mother would move heaven and earth to protect her, that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's counting your breaths and waiting for the right moment. An unexpected letter. The mail arrives mid-morning. Gray sorts through the usual stack of bills and advertisements until she finds an official envelope. Greystone Police Department letterhead, new chief's name in the return address. She opens it carefully. Inside is a handwritten note on department stationery. Colonel Gray, I've read every file related to what happened to Madison. What your daughter experienced was inexcusable and I cannot undo it. But I can commit to ensuring it never happens again to any child in this community. Under the new Oversight Board, we've implemented the Verify Before Assume protocol. Officers must now confirm claims and contact guardians before taking any detention action involving minors. The protocol requires documented proof of reasonable suspicion, not assumption. Informally, around the station, officers call it the Gray Rule. I hope that's acceptable to you and Madison. We're not perfect yet, we're still learning, but we're trying to be better than we were. Respectfully, Chief Angela Mercer. Gray reads it twice, then shows it to Madison. Madison reads in silence, then looks up. Cool, but I hope nobody else has to go through what I did for them to figure out basic decency. That's the point of change, kid, Gray says quietly. We push hard so the next person doesn't have to, so the system bends before it breaks someone else. Madison nods slowly. Do you think it'll actually stick? Or will they forget once everyone stops paying attention? That's why we stay vigilant. Change requires maintenance. The moment we stop watching, old habits creep back in. Evening finds them on the front porch, the golden hour light painting everything warm and soft. A neighbor kid rides past on a bike, carefree and unaware, no police in sight to question his right to exist in public space. Madison watches the kid disappear around the corner. Do you think Officer Kane ever really understood what he did wrong? Gray considers the question carefully. Maybe not. Some people are more invested in being right than in being better. But here's what matters. The system understood. One bad cop is a problem we can solve by firing him. A system that protects bad cops? That's a crisis. That's what we had to fix. So did we fix it? We started the fix. Real change is generational, Madison. It takes decades of consistent pressure. We pushed one domino, others have to keep pushing. They sit in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the sky shift from gold to pink to purple. Gray breaks the quiet. You stood up when it mattered most, even when I wasn't there yet. Even when you were scared and alone and no one believed you. I'm proud of you. Madison leans into her mother's shoulder. Learned it from watching you, Mom. Gray wraps an arm around her daughter and holds on tight. Some victories are loud and dramatic. Others are quiet moments on a porch, a child safe and whole, a system slightly more just than it was before. This is both. Madison Gray's story isn't unique, it's not even rare. Across this country, thousands of children face authority figures who refuse to listen, not because the kids are lying, but because adults have already decided what's true based on appearance, assumptions, and prejudice. Most of those children don't have a mother with Pentagon connections. Most don't have access to federal investigations or Senate hearings. Most suffer their humiliations in silence, learning early that the system doesn't protect people like them. But every now and then, someone picks the wrong target. Every now and then, the truth walks through the door wearing combat boots and carrying the kind of power that can't be dismissed or ignored. Madison's case became a catalyst because her mother had resources most people don't. But the principle applies universally. Children deserve to be believed until proven otherwise, not suspected until proven innocent. Every bully's downfall starts the same way. One person refuses to back down. One person says no more and means it. One person has the courage to make noise until someone with power finally listens. Want to see more stories where bullies face real consequences? Subscribe and hit the notification bell. The next story drops in 48 hours, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. If this story reminded you that accountability still matters, that justice can prevail when good people refuse to stay silent, then share it. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. Tag someone who's been underestimated and proved everyone wrong. And remember, the badge doesn't grant righteousness. The uniform doesn't guarantee integrity. Real power comes from standing firm in your truth and refusing to let anyone make you small.
This isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of what happens when truth meets visibility. At Beat Stories, we believe exposure is the first step to transformation. Subscribe and stay tuned because the next story might be yours.